We're live. Yes, episode 35. Here with my buddy Chaz Kauffman. Chaz, I can only say I hope to one day have the golf ball collection behind. Have you played every one of those courses with those golf balls?
Yeah, those are all the places that I've played from when I can remember to buy a logo ball from the course that I'm at. But yes, played them all and looking to keep that thing growing.
Wow. What hole is that behind you?
That is number 16 at Augusta. Have not played that one yet. That one is still on the bucket list. So I'm waiting for my invite on that one.
You got to get that. Got to get that going, man. Got to get that going. From everything I'm seeing behind here, with all the buildings you got going up, we'll get a little bit into it with the audience, but I can't believe it. So to those that have watched this ever since the beginning, Chaz is actually episode 35. And if you would have asked me 3 years ago when I started this, if I would have gotten to episode 35, I probably would have laughed at you because I didn't think my mom was number one, which was an interesting conversation. But we're at episode 35. Super grateful to all the folks who have done it before. And I want to welcome my friend Chaz Kauffman to Homage today. I can't believe we finally got this done. Chaz and I are an interesting story. Shout out to our mutual friend, Mary Lynne Andreula. She was the one that connected us about two and a half years ago. And me, Chaz, Mary Lynne, and Gary Caton, who actually have all been also on the podcast, have had some pretty epic special lunches together where it's become, beyond talking business, talking about family and friendship and things like that. I was actually just talking about getting Maria 2.0 in the works in early December with Uncle Gary over the weekend. So we're going to have to start planning that. It's already September.
Yeah, I can't wait. That'll be spectacular.
So Chaz, who tell us a little bit about CH Kauffman, what you guys do, the family history that's involved in it. For those in the audience, you're going to see behind Chaz here, behind him to his right, there's a lot of really cool buildings that are up. So I'm not gonna spill the beans here, but Chaz, why don't you give us a little bit about CH Kauffman, how it was started, the family component to it. My wife's in her family business, so we all know the dynamics of that. It's always a little crazy. Thank you for coming on the show. First of all, I'd be remiss. Thank you, Homage, for your friendship. Chaz has always been, over the last few years, as we've cultivated a relationship, just a great resource, a great ear, obviously has a great mind for business. But tell us a little bit about it, man. Thanks for coming on today.
No, thanks. It's an honor to be on here. Great to be number 35. So appreciate the invite. I'll tell you a little bit kind of who we are, what we are. And, I know we've talked about this. Again, small commercial mortgage banking firm. It's family owned. So it's started in 1986 by my father and another partner that he had when he started the company, a guy named Bill Kern. Originally, the company's name was Kern Kauffman Mortgage Associates. And again, the two of them were in the business together and, kind of talk about, family and, kind of the dynamic of things. My father was hired as an office boy when he was 16 years old. And the guy that hired him was Bill Kern, who he then partnered with, later in life. So the history of, the connection of my father and his partner go back all the way to my father getting into the business and started it at, 16 years old. And, the rest has been kind of history. So it was nice too, because when I got into the business, I worked for the two of them. Their personalities were very different. Bill was the ultimate salesman. Obviously he told you how to present something in a light to sell something. Was never a BSer. Always, mentioned the way to really sell something is to tell the truth, the good, the bad, the ugly, point everything out. But at the end of the day, always seemed like no matter what he was discussing with you, at the end of the day, you just had that knack of like, wow, this is a great business deal. This is a great asset. We want to lend on this. So I had the beauty of learning from him, and my father was a very detail-oriented guy. So I had, in my opinion, two great teachers kind of coming up through the business. So it was, very, very fortunate for me. And again, we worked together for a while. We bought Bill's interest out back probably 15, 16 years ago. So been working with my father for 30 years now. About 22 years ago, my brother joined the business. After he got out of college, he worked for someone else. Then we decided to bring him in. And then about 3 years ago, we brought my sister in. So it is truly a family business, as well as other people that work within our firm. But the dynamic, as you know, with your wife and her family, it's the best and the worst at both times, because, no matter what you do, your interests are all aligned. But it can be a dynamic that is very hard for some people. Fortunately for us, it works out well, and it's great. Again, small company. 86 it was started, and we do all commercial real estate. We finance office buildings, apartment buildings. As you see behind us, we do a lot of construction financing. Kind of what I've have built my career on, and my book of business. And it's been really enjoyable. Growing the business, working with the family, and taking care of our clients. Never looking to be the biggest firm, just trying to be a great fiduciary for our clients, and we've had a great time doing it so far.
And one of the things that it's funny, because one of the things that Chaz and I, when we get together and talking about in business, is like the dynamics of, and we're also connected through Connect One Bank and the ambassador board and all that. One of the interesting things that I find with the business is, obviously over the course of time, you said you've been, here doing this now for a fairly long time. So you've seen some stuff, you've seen highs, you've seen lows, and you've seen everything in between. With regards to how you got into the business and having on your dad and that sort of dual dichotomy, if you will, of two very different people, but really it's the art of the sale. How do you think that's molded you as you've taken your career, like you niched out into construction financing and what have you? Was there a certain place in time where you were like, this is what I want to do and here's why? Because I still find today, and I'll relate it to myself with regards to, being the owner of a business, having, interest. It's probably a little different from you because you have like a brother or sister that, everybody's in the business, but you find what you love within the structure or within the confines of the company. Has it been easy for you to kind of like find that niche and like go after it, and really like, has everybody in the company been behind that and like pushed you to go, all right, that's your role, that's what you love, that's what you need to do? Like, I'm always interested in that, because for me, I defined it myself. Like I mean, not myself, I defined what I do for myself, and then I was able to build around it based on my weaknesses. I kind of knew what my weaknesses were. Has it been that way for you, or did you have to kind of find, like, within your journey, did you find that on your own, or did your dad and Bill kind of help you to that?
Yeah. So the reality is, when I first got in the business, I'll take a quick step back. I was going to Rutgers. At the time, I was working at a nightclub in North Jersey, in my early 20s, 2021, having a great time, and, working late hours, but, I got my real estate license. I was always interested in real estate. Got my real estate license the day I turned 18. I went for my license, got it shortly thereafter. So I had my real estate license early on. I was always interested in real estate, but didn't really know what I wanted to do. So while I was going to school, working at the nightclub, my father was like, hey, we're kind of busy. Why don't you come work with us? So, I went from the atmosphere of, running 100 miles an hour to sitting in an office and negotiating, lease, renewals and looking at different financing options. And like I said, I had the two, in essence, partners, my father and Bill. And where I sat was literally in a hallway between their two offices. I didn't have an office, but it was great because I could hear both of them on phone calls and hear how they each kind of talk to the clients and present things. And coincidentally enough, we did a lot of the company did some construction financing, but not to the extent of kind of my career. And early on in my career, I was, again, living up in North Jersey. I wanted to live in Hoboken. At the time, I couldn't afford it, but I wound up doing my first deal in Hoboken. I forget the actual year, but it was, late 90s. And it was a construction deal. And I remember sitting there going like, well, this is interesting. I'm going to work on this deal. I'm going to see something get built. It's not just a refinance of an apartment or a shopping center. I'm going to see something get created. And that first deal I did was with a very good client, and became a very, very good friend. And to this day, still is a good friend. And just a connection back to Connect One. His name's Mike Nerchio, and he's actually a client of the bank. So he introduced me to somebody else, and all had construction needs. Became a word of mouth, and said, "Hey, look, he did a good job for us. Why don't you talk to him?" And I made my career out of Hudson County, starting off on construction. And again, it's evolved into kind of all over the place. And it was something that I enjoyed. And again, talking with my father and Bill, and they said, look, you got a nice, niche here. You seem to be doing well with it. Stay after it. So to me, it was great. I saw my career kind of grow up on financing construction projects. And more importantly, to me, it was enjoyable because I would just drive around. I would be pointing out saying like, oh, I financed this building and, did a refinance on an office building. I would say, oh, I financed this building. When I came here, it was, dilapidated industrial building. They built it into a 100-unit apartment building, and look what it is now. So to me, it was good. I had the support behind me to kind of go after and do what I wanted to do or what I enjoyed doing. The people that, within our firm that worked with us, they were great. The support was great. Like I was going around, constantly, going out to meetings, meeting people, meeting architects, developers, going to different events, late nights, which, besides just the support team. And, I know we've talked about this before within my firm, my wife was always supportive of it because, early on, we first married, we didn't have kids, but then we had little kids. I was going out to dinners because I had to go out to meet the builders, the architects, the engineers, the banks. It's a lot of networking, a lot of time. So not only did I have support within, the firm, I had a great, support cast with my wife, who was always kind of like, backing me and saying, hey, do what you got to do. I'll take care of it. And, without somebody like that, you couldn't grow your career. So I've been very, very fortunate to have within the firm the support I needed from kind of the top to, the people that were putting the deals together as I was bringing them in, to my wife, who was, has always been, a great support cast. I know we've talked about, just the dynamic of having that great family life and the support. And to me, that's just something, you can't replace.
It's actually wow, you did a great job on the segue there. It's actually one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because having that, one of the things that I've really leaned on Chaz for has been like, Chaz is a few steps ahead of me in his career and where he was going, and his kids are a little bit older than mine, and having that support system and having, to your point about having your wife being there, that dynamic, you actually totally just cut out one of the whole segments that I wanted to cover. So thank you for killing two birds with one stone. No, it's very important.
Saying my career is advanced, meaning that I'm older than you.
Well, you have, look, I have gray hair too. We're both. That's why do you think I wear a hat on?
At least you got hair. So
no, but it's one of those things that I think is vitally important. And a lot of folks that watch this over the course of the years, I've had people on where, they say, like, they're very successful business people, but they're like, there's going to be challenges. One of the things that you always meet, no matter if it's somebody, like you guys with a family business of 30 plus years, or DSM, we're coming up on 18 or 17, whatever it is, in February. It's one of those things that there is a steady influence of support, and no one can do this on their own.
Not at all.
And everybody sees it. And as the leader, I think it's interesting. It's a question that I want to put to you, because, when your name, similar to mine, your name's on the building, your name's on the company itself. So the buck always stops with you, but people always see it and they're like, oh, it must be great. Like, you guys are winning all these awards and all these accolades. But it's like that picture of the iceberg, and you see like 10% of the iceberg above the water and the other 90 below the water. And people, they're like, oh, it must be great. And it's like, no, it's really, there's days that are really challenging. And there are
very
days,
stressful.
Yeah, there are days that are stressful, not only in terms of like, you and I are in charge of the business development and getting out there and, making sure that there's a steady stream of income coming into our companies, but also, like, there comes a certain point in your career now where you're responsible for others.
Absolutely.
And I'll never get the conversation. I'll never forget the conversation with my wife where it was like with DSM, obviously your dad and Bill had built it up. Like with DSM, like, I started it on a win. Like, I didn't know if it was going to I didn't know if we're coming up on like year 17 or 18. I didn't know if we were going to make like day 17 or 18 at the very beginning. Like, I was clueless. And there came a time where the moment that we made it, or like I felt like we made it, it was really, I don't know when it was. It was probably like year 4 or 5. It was super challenging. And now I look at it and I laugh. But I was sitting there and I'm like, oh man, like, I don't know if we could do this. Like, I don't know if we could do this anymore. It just feels overwhelming. And my wife was like, you don't have, like, and they have a 120-year business. She was like, do you realize you have people's lives now that are in your hands? Like, you're supporting people. Like, it's not just you and like, okay, we can do this or we can't. And that weight sometimes is something that I feel like people don't understand if you've never had a business or you don't run your own business. If you're a good person and you're running your business right, you're probably taking into account all of the people that work for you and all of their families, and it becomes personal. Like you guys said, you're a small business. You don't have 100 people or 500 people working at your company. Like those people are kind of in a way your family, and it's important.
Yep.
So I don't know your take on that, but.
Yeah, no, listen, and I think it's very, very true. People think it's all glory, and your name's on the company. You get to do all these different things. You get to go to these events. And listen, sometimes there's lots of nights or days where I don't want to go to an event. I'm exhausted, and it's exactly that. But you don't have a choice when you're the face or the name of the company. You take it very seriously. And the nice thing is, and I'm sure you feel the same way, you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. And, we've been very, very fortunate here at our firm that we've had great, great employees. Without them, we would not be where we are. We would not be who we are. So why, at the end of the day, our name is, my name's on the company. It's not me. It's the whole team. It always has been, always will be. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. But you're absolutely right. You get this sense of need to make sure that you're not only taking care of, yourself, and your immediate family, my wife, my kids, but it's everybody else. I want to make sure that, everybody does well. And it is family here. I mean, it's, everyone, I mean, one of my office managers, just left. She started as an intern. She was with us 17 years. I mean, phenomenal. She just was ready for that next step in her life. And she just came in last week and we got together and went out for happy hour. it becomes a family, and it becomes just just such a good feeling to work with all the same goal in mind. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for other people, and there is that that need to make sure that you take care of yourself, but more importantly your extended family, as we say it. So it is a big responsibility. But you know what, but the nice thing is, as hard as I feel I work for them, I feel that they work just as hard for the company and for me. So to me, that's what it's all about.
It's reciprocal. It's reciprocal.
It
One
is
of those,
absolutely. Yeah.
well, which to your point, I mean, you'll probably understand this more. Like I said, because you guys are a little bit bigger than we are in like the sum is only as good as its parts. Like,
100%.
and your job, similar to my job, is to get the collective to work together. And it's like, as you've evolved in your career too, one of the biggest things for me as the company has grown, if you're a good entrepreneur, I feel like having the knowledge and the know-how to put people around you that complement your skill set is super important. On the other side of it, you're talking about times, and I'm not saying like you're not busy now. Like there are days you wish you didn't have to go to an event.
Sure.
But on the other side of it, there's things that you did early in your career that as a parent now, like we'll segue for a few minutes into the family part of it, but like,
yep,
there's things that I don't do anymore, not because I can't or I won't, but it's the evolution of like a prioritization. Like for me, like coaching my son, like Chaz has sons, they play sports and things like that. It's the same thing. I just posted it today. This past weekend was Luca's first football game, and that time now that you were doing dinners, like his practices now that he's in the senior group, they're from 6:30 to 8:30 every night. And that to me at this point in my life is, it's not to say that the business is not important, but that part of it, like I was joking around, we've been going now, the same group of guys that are coaches since the 3rd grade. And this is now the last 2 years with 7th or 8th grade. And my buddy, who's the head coach, said it. He goes, we really got to enjoy these last 2 years because this is going to be it. Then they're going to go to high school. They're going to get like real coaches, and we're going to not be in that part of it. Good. Yeah, no.
It's so funny because one of my good friends, actually one of my best friends since I've been 14 years old, we're still very close. He was co-best man in my wedding with my brother. He calls me this morning and we're talking, just catching up about the weekend. And I'm an Eagles fan. He's a Giants fan. So it was a better weekend for me than it was for him. So, but we're just talking, and he says, hey, he says, I was out this weekend and I was talking to some guys, and he says, we got to start doing things more. Like our kids are now at that age where they're getting ready to go on. He says, in a couple of years, our kids are all going to be off in college. And he says, we got to start doing things and enjoying life. He says, things are going by so quick. And I think people get lost in business, and I do it myself. And I'm sure you do. You work hard, but you feel that you constantly got to be on. But there is a thing, and I think maybe to some extent COVID may have, kind of shown it to a few people, but life is more than being at the desk and working hard. And not that neither one of us are still doing that same, running 100 miles an hour, but I think we've had the opportunity, and I think it's kind of a blessing to take a step back and say, there's other things that I got to do with my life. And I think it is part of the evolution, so I got a younger guy here. He's kind of running out and doing things now, again, early 20s. He's in that part of his life now, and his career and his part of our company is going out and going to those events and doing those things. But more importantly, I think it's giving people like yourself and myself the opportunity to take a step back and look and make sure that we truly do enjoy our kids and our life and our wives and kind of that part of life that so often gets overlooked. So yeah, it's definitely interesting times as you evolve through the business cycle, if you will, to take a step back and enjoy it. So more importantly, how did your son do at his football game?
They had he's a seventh grader, so they won the A squad game 26-2. Don't ask about the score. We had a snap that flew over the we were backed up on our goal line in the second half, and the snap flew over out of the end zone. So that's how they scored 2. So we won. It was a great weekend. Luca in his B squad game yesterday for the seventh graders, 6-6 tie against Pompton Lake. So hard fought game. I told him, there's things he wants to be good. I said, bro, you better get off your Xbox and start working, man. You got, if you want to be good at something, that's been actually similar to your point, the mentoring part about like what you just said about the young guy in your office, to be able to mentor like your sons in that respect, like coaching. It's great because I'm not coaching his position group. I've coached him basically the last 4 years. And this year I got moved on to the running backs and linebackers, and he's a lineman and defensive end and whatever. So it's been great to be able to kind of take a step back and just be like, all right, I'm not coaching you. You have your coaches, you listen to them, do what you want, or do what they say, but to be able to come back to it the way he has, and he's still asking me questions and like, how do I do this? And what could I have done better? And like when he gets home from school tonight, all these great innovations. We have the huddle now where you basically get the game film for like middle school kids.
That's great.
So, we'll break down some film when he gets home from school. It's an interesting time because this is the first time he's in the 7th grade. It's the first time that he's kind of taken like the initiative to want to, like, he wants to do it. And I'm not there like pushing him. And I'm like, okay, man, well, if you want to do it, like, I just need you to understand that, like, I'm not always going to be there to push you. Like, you're going to need to take the interest and the initiative and, mentoring them from kind of like afar, which is cool, or it's getting cooler.
Sure.
He'll joke, like, I ride him like Seabiscuit when I coach him. So it's like, this is awesome right now. But, and he's also taken a like sort of a leadership role, which was always something he's had to evolve into. It for me, it's always been something that, like, when I was a kid, I was like, all right, you know what? Like, I'm just going to be the guy that goes. And for him, it's not as natural to be like vocal and to kind of like, all right, guys, like, let's go, when things are not going bad, like, we got to get moving here. And he took a little bit of the initiative. And one of the other guys, my buddy, called me yesterday after the game. And he's like, I just want to let you know, I'm proud of Luca. Like, he really, not only did he work hard yesterday, but, like, I don't know if you were outside yesterday, but it was like, we were on a turf field. It was brutal.
Yes.
Like, the kids were like dragging ass yesterday. Like, it was so humid. But it was one of those days where, like, he kind of got everybody going a little bit, and it was cool. And when, this guy who was his coach, he's a good buddy of mine. He's like the head of like the Bergen County OEM. Like, he's seen some things. And when he called me, it was pretty cool. With regards to the family, like I said, we covered a lot, but how with your sons, I know they're still young, but is this something like a generational thing? Is it something that you want to see them get into, or is it something that you're like, you guys got to go on your own way? Are you a big believer in these guys finding their own way?
Well, it's funny because, joking around, my kids now, they're 15 and 14. So sophomore rather and freshman, and they joke around and they're like, maybe this summer I'll just come work for you. And I always say, well, you can come interview if you want. I said, I'm not sure you're going to get the job. So, it's one of those things. Look, I've had, in my opinion, a very blessed career. Every day I get to have, coffee and lunch and conversations with my father, whether, you know, it's business, it's personal, whatever it is. And he still works to this day, and he's the kind of guy that's never going to stop working. Which, you know, I've been very fortunate that I've had that mentor in my life. Look, I'd love to have my kids come in and do this. You know, they think it's going to be easy, and I tell them, well, you have to be able to bring something to the table. I said, you're not going to come in just for a job. I said, you know, I said, you can come in. I said, if you want, you know, one summer, I said, you can kind of work with us for, you know, a couple of weeks, see what we do. And then if you're interested, you can come back the next year. I said, but, you know, it's not a guaranteed job. And I said, and more importantly, I said, if you screw up, you're gone. So it's the dynamics are very, very, very good. You know, my older son, I think he would like to do it. My younger son, you know, I think he's got greater ambitions. He wants to take over the world. They're very, very different kids, and I know we've talked about that dynamic with kids. They're both great. You know, I couldn't be happier. I'm very blessed there. They're, you know, great kids. As I mentioned to you, I think the other day, my older son just did a triathlon at 15 years old in Atlantic City. You know, wow. If you would have told me 2 years ago that he was going to do this, I'd say not a chance. He trained for it, did it, and did great. You know, I mean, you know, he did, and it thankfully it wasn't a real hot day, but he did better to swim than I expected. He did great on the bike, and then he got to the run, and you know, which is probably his weakest of the three, but he got through and did it. And I got to tell you, you know, he came through the finish line, and I figured he was going to be like, I'm never doing this again. The first thing he said is, I'm going to do the Cape May Triathlon next year. I mean, so it's like, you know, listen, you want the kids to find their own way. You want them to grow up, to understand, like, you know, life is about finding what you like and who you are and what you're about. But obviously, you know, to be able to have, if they choose, have them come in and work with you. I mean, listen, if I could have, you know, coffee, lunch, and conversations with my kids every day, and all get along, you know, why we work together and make money and things go great, you know, you can't ask for a better thing. If it happens, that it's a bonus. If it doesn't, and they find their own way into something else that they truly like, you know, I'll support them 100%. As long as they can make money, and they don't live at home for the rest of their lives. That's all. So, but no, it's been.
You hear that, boys? As long as you don't live home for the rest of your lives.
Simple, real simple. So
that's got one rule. Well, anyway,
yeah, exactly.
I know you're super busy. This homage is to you, man. You're a great businessman, but you're a better husband and father and son, and I am forever grateful for Mary Lynne to introducing us. Looking forward to making many, many more memories through the years, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. Because basically, you know, you have on the right side of my screen to your left is all these fantastic golf holes, and we were joking before the round. I just shot my first sub 90 round ever, legitimately sub 90 round. I shot an 89, but I did it. I got through. I was looking at the scorecard, the last two holes as I was going in, and I'm like, just don't screw it up. Just don't screw it up. Stay, just chill, relax. So you got the balance going, man, with the golf, all the beautiful projects that you and your family, you know, this business has done. Keep up the great work, man. And I'm just so thankful to have you as a friend and to call you a friend, and appreciate you very much. I'll turn it over to you. You got the last word, brother.
Yeah. No, listen, first of all, thank you again for the opportunity to come on here. It's been great getting to know you over these last couple of years. Again, same thing with the business that you're running. Keep doing it. You're doing great. You know, I can't wait to see, 35 from now, number 70 up there, and, look back at it and be like, oh, I remember when I was number 35. I was halfway at this point. Listen, you're doing great. It's, again, I truly, taking a step back, and as I mentioned before, just, that dynamic of, working hard, but more importantly, taking a step back to realize the things in life. And, I thank Mary Lynne for the introduction to you and to Gary. And like I said, the lunches that we have and the conversation completely outside of business and just getting to know you and the opening up that we've had between the four of us at these lunches and the other conversation is, to me, it's priceless. And, I thank you for the opportunity to get to know you. And I look forward to, many more years to go of us hanging out, having a good time and getting to, that second round in the 80s.
There you go. I sure hope so. I got done and I literally was standing there and I was like, I just did it. And I said it at the beginning of the summer. I was with me and my buddy, who's the head coach of our football team. We're like, we're breaking 90 this year. We're breaking 90. And he's got a gig up in Boston College now. So he's doing a lot of traveling with football and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope so. I enjoy it. But Chaz, Kauffman, thank you. Episode 35 in the books. Love you, my brother. Keep doing the good work.
Thank you for everything.
Keep fighting the good fight, and I'll see you soon, pal.
Look forward to it. Thanks again for the opportunity.